People who were fine 1 minute, then woke up in the hospital. What happened?
I was quite young, about 12 years old when this happened.
I was quite unaware of my surroundings and was easygoing.
I was home alone and decided to make myself something to eat.
I was around 4 feet 11 inches, so I couldn't actually reach my cabinets.
So, to find my way around this, I jumped up on a kitchen unit and grabbed food from the cabinet. Before getting off, I could have sworn I saw the kitchen unit was longer than before.
So I crawled on the unit.
The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed with my parents surrounding me. They said I fell off of the kitchen side and nearly fractured my head. Luckily, I landed on my stomach, so nothing serve.
Could have had a memory loss and concussion. Was on the way to work on my bike. Last thing I remember is turning out of the driveway.
Woke up 5 days later in a neurotrauma unit with 11 broken ribs, a shattered clavicle, a punctured lung, 8 stitches on my foot, 6 behind my ear, and permanent nerve damage.
I have no recollection to this day of what happened. From the evidence, I'm pretty sure I was run over. There was also blood on my helmet visor from the wound behind the ear. I've had some parts filled in for me. The first hospital they took me to couldn't give me strong painkillers and risk putting me under because they didn't know what damage my skull had taken. CT scans were required. Took 4 hours for me to get to a hospital with a CT machine.
4 hours with a punctured lung.
There's no video of the incident.
It happened conveniently in an unsurveilled spot between 2 video cameras. Bystanders were of no help, at least, my brother and dad didn't collect any information from them that they shared with me. I suspected for some time that my then girlfriend with whom I'd recently broken up had tried to have me taken out. While I was under, she turned up at the hospital and convinced my family that I tried to kill myself.
In a bike accident. While wearing a helmet.
In 6 p.m. rush hour traffic.
Half a mile from my apartment.
Where my dad was sitting.
On the 10th floor.
My brother and my dad believe her.
They still think I remember exactly what happened, but won't tell them because I'm embarrassed to admit I was suicidal. The real irony? I never had suicidal thoughts until after I recovered and realized my own family chooses to believe an outsider over me. They still do. This is what betrayal is. Took years to move past those thoughts.
Someone tossed a rake like a javelin at my face. It impacted right between my eyes and knocked me out cold. My little sister went into DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, a long time ago now, and in her description it was like blink sleep, like when you go to bed and feel like you've only just blinked and woken up hours later. Except in this case, she fell asleep at home and woke up a week later in the hospital. I was in Lahaina, Maui on the first day of my vacation, finally got to the hotel room after not eating much all day of travel. Was getting ready for some food in the beach, next thing I know I'm in an ambulance watching the palm trees pass by on my way to Kahalui Medical Center. I had passed out in the bathroom and split my head on the counter on the way down.
Couldn't go in the ocean the whole trip.
Oh, also, I happened to have the accident on the one night someone actually got shot on Maui, so it took all night in the small ER to get tests and stitches because all the doctors were busy. I had a severe asthma attack to the point my entire throat closed up.
I turned blue and was lying on the kitchen floor. Woke up in my granddad's car with a straw in my throat and him banging on my back. Woke up again in the hospital. I was about 7. Passed out from severe dehydration and hit my head hard enough to give me a concussion. 1 minute expediting, next minute hooked up to all sorts of machines. It was extremely disorienting. I was eating dinner on Christmas Eve and just woke up on the 26th.
I had surgery for Christmas.
And pneumonia. When I was 7, my family and I had gone to a museum.
For reasons beyond human comprehension, the museum had placed a large metal grate in the middle of a cylinder that went about 15 or so centimeters off the ground. Below the metal grate was a large, steam-emitting machine about 10 meters below. I climbed up onto the metal grate and started running around with 5 or so other kids, and 10 seconds later, I slip and smash my skull on the metal grate. I think I passed out a few seconds later, and woke up in the hospital with a ton of bandages on my head.
I had fallen directly onto my temple. For anyone not anatomically aware of what the temple is, it's the weakest area in the skull where 4 different bones connect to each other, and was lucky that I didn't crack my skull open according to my father. Anyway, my dad was driving me to school and suddenly I was in my bed. I get up, open my door, and ask my family what just happened. They all simultaneously scream for me to go back to the bed. Apparently I had already asked them what happened 6 separate times. I had a series of grand mal seizures during the car ride. Went from chatty to seizing all of a sudden. My dad called our pediatrician and I was eventually diagnosed with a form of epilepsy. My dad was told to take me home and put me to bed. It was the most disorienting thing I've ever experienced. It took 6 months to feel normal again. I had a constant sense of newness with familiar things that was very weird. This was about 2 summers ago. My family has a total of 4 horses, only 3 we can ride. Our biggest and oldest horse, Hope, is an ex-racehorse. For some time I had been taking lessons on her from my stepmom. Hope was not fully trained and could only be ridden at a walk/trot, she also couldn't steer. Horses don't like wind, and it was really windy that day, leaving Hope a bit sensitive. When trying to get her into a trot, my stepmom had a whip and was just shaking it slightly. Hope jumped forward, so I instinctively held on with my legs. Bad idea. This caused her to freak out more. I was pulling back on the reins to try and get her to stop. When she finally came to a very harsh stop, I went off backwards, not sure how, but I did. Landed right on my head. Hope proceeded to back up and step on my back. I got a concussion, that was it. I could have easily been paralyzed or even killed. I don't remember seeing anything in the hospital, but I remember hearing things. The earliest thing I remember seeing was the window at a Walgreens pharmacy. Also, I don't remember most of that day, this is just from what my stepmom told me. I braided my horse's tail, Faith, earlier that day and had no memory. I even remember in the hospital bed my stepmom telling me I did it. I didn't know what day it was or anything. Over time some memory came back from it, like I remember crawling out of the pen while gasping for air. Hope is a sweet horse. I should have been more careful that day.